Shalom and welcome to Return the Remnant Ministry. I'm Chad Wilhelm, and today we are continuing our 6-part series on watchmen who will not be carried away by the air in these end times. This is the third teaching of the 6 parts, and this one today is on emerging tech. These are mainly speaking about end times implications of advances in science and emerging technology. And as we've been doing on the previous 2 teachings, I've started off with a slide of a picture in Israel. And if anyone has been to Tel Dan, for the most part, people will have a chance to take a look at this. Sometimes tours will go through and you don't even have a chance to look at this. You'll go to Tel Dan, to the city, and take a look at the city, walk through the city, and see the altar that was set up, Jeroboam's altar that was set up at Tel Dan, the remains of that. But if you veer off to the side and walk around, go past the main city of Tel Dan and come around the corner, you will see this thing. And what's amazing about this is they call this Abraham's Gate, or the Canaanite Gate. And it is one of the oldest arch gate structures in the world, thought to have been built around 750 BC, around the time of Abraham, hence the name Abraham's Gate. And so don't let anyone fool you when they say that the Romans were the first to build an arched gate. This is an arched gate. If you get up close to it, you'll see how it is an arched structure. There's another one of these arched structures in Ashkelon as well, and they precede the Roman Empire by about 12 to 1500 years. They predate it. So one thing I look at is you can see that this gate here is pretty small. Someone that's 6 feet tall will have to bend down to go through this gate, and I can't help but remember when Yeshua said to seek the narrow gate, because many will go through the broad gate, which leads to destruction, but very few find the narrow gate. But even if you find the narrow gate, we know that, as it's written in Mark, when people knock, when it says that those will knock on the door asking to come in, and Yeshua will say, "I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of iniquity." So just because you find the narrow gate, that's part of it. But you still have to be keeping the commandments and having the testimony of Yeshua in order to enter in. Just like the five virgins who were ready had their lamps trimmed and their lights lit. So just something to chew upon. So let's go ahead and get started into our teaching here. And remember, once again, this teaching can be found on the YouTube channel, Return the Remnant. If you can subscribe, like the video, that would be great. And as we come out with teachings, we'll put them on there and you'll get notified of that. Also, we'll have links to these teachings on our website at returntheremnant.com. And feel free to contact us there through the main page, and we'll try and answer your questions and help you with whatever you have going on with these teachings and helping you understand them. So again, let's get started on this. Again, this teaching is entitled End Times Implications of Advances in Science and Emerging Technology. Also a segue into Daniel chapter 12. So these are some of the technologies we'll be talking about today. And I'm just curious, how many people out there know what IoT is? Or how about UAVs? Or how about VR immersion? Well, as we go through this teaching today, we're going to single each one of these out. But for now, we need to get in to Daniel chapter 12, verse 4. In Daniel 12, verse 4, it is written, "And you, Daniel, close the words and seal the book to the time of the end, until many are taught and knowledge is increased." That's the Septuagint version. In the King James it says, "But you, Daniel, shut up the words, seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." So we see that Daniel was told to seal up the words in the book until the end. Now that was about 2,500 years ago. And about 500 years later from when this was revealed to Daniel, John was given the revelation and told not to seal up the prophecy of the book. So we see in Revelation 22:10, "And he said unto me, unto John, Seal not the sayings of the prophecy of this book, for the time is at hand." And here we are in 2020, and we are starting to see more and more revelation within end time prophecy starting to come to fruition in the days that we're living in. So let's break this verse down a little bit. "But you, Daniel, shut up the words, seal the book to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." That Hebrew word where they have translated into English, run to and fro, is the Hebrew word shoot. And it has the meaning of to go or rove about, go to and fro, or to row. It also has the connotation of searching for manna, searching for land, searching the earth, searching for knowledge, searching for something. And you'll see that in a few scriptures here. In Numbers 11:8, the people went about, they were gathering, they were searching for manna. We see this in Numbers chapter 11, verse 8, that word shoot. Here in Ezekiel 27, verse 8, and also in verse 26, the inhabitants of Zidon and Arvad were your mariners. Mariners, what do mariners do? In those days they sailed, they rowed boats. Here in verse 26, your rowers have brought you into great waters. So again, what are they doing? They're rowing a boat, but they're rowing to somewhere. They're searching out land, or they're searching a port, or they're searching for gold. So that's what we want to take a look at here. To run to and fro has the meaning of searching for something. Then the second part of this verse of Daniel 12:4, that knowledge shall be increased. So the knowledge in the Hebrew is da'at. Da'at, meaning knowledge, perception, skill, understanding, wisdom, discernment. And the other Hebrew word for increased is rabbah. It means to become great, multiply, or increased. And getting back to da'at, again, this is this knowledge and understanding. We see in the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament that da'at expresses knowledge gained in various ways by the senses. It is a general term for knowledge, particularly that which is of a personal, experimental nature. It is also used for technical knowledge or ability that was needed for building the tabernacle. And you remember in Exodus 31:2, Bezalel, he was filled with knowledge. He was filled with da'at in the fabricating and building items for the tabernacle. Da'at appears parallel in Scripture with wisdom and understanding, instruction in Torah. And another example is the tree of knowledge of good and evil versus God teaching man. So if we take a look at Daniel 12:4 and try and apply it to today, we see it as a multi-layered prophecy. We see it as an increased scriptural knowledge and understanding of end-time prophecy and the prophecies that relate to the first coming of Yeshua and the second coming of Yeshua. We also see an increase in human knowledge through technological advances, and that's what we're going to be focusing on in this teaching. On the scriptural significance side, we see that people over time will gain more knowledge about God's end-time plans by continually studying Scripture. And this running to and fro can refer to the process of searching back and forth through Scripture very quickly compared to what it was 500 years ago, where there may only have been a handful of translations, and you didn't have a Bible at your fingertips that every person could search out if they wanted to. But now we see through technology how quickly you can go online and get and have an eSword or other apps, and be able to quickly look up verses and try and see where they fit into other areas. But this is done, again, through various Bible software and the internet, and also access to sharing information on various platforms. And so the knowledge that we see in this part of this multi-layer prophecy is the aspect that relates to understanding of God's word and prophecies, being able to quickly go through the Bible and single out Hebraic words. Just it's very interesting how, just look in the last 10, 15, 20 years, how much knowledge of the Bible for those who study it, just look how much information is out there on this topic. Now we can take a look at the other side of this prophecy concerning the human knowledge and technology. And when we see the prophecy concerning human knowledge, we can see that the transportation and the traveling of the world and the spread of human knowledge through technological advances have increased exponentially. 100 years ago, it took how long to travel the world? In most places, it took days. Now, through the use of the technology, the advances we have in jets and other transportation, we can travel throughout the world in less than a day. So from the human knowledge aspect of technology, we have what's called the knowledge doubling curve. And for an example on this, the nanotechnology knowledge, which we're going to talk about today, is doubling about every 2 years. Clinical knowledge about every 18 months. But on average, human knowledge is doubling every 13 months, according to IBM. And the buildup of IoT, which is Internet of Things, is going to lead to the doubling of knowledge every 12 hours. So, in my opinion, we can interpret this verse of Daniel 12:4 in reference to overall human knowledge through advancements in technology and an increased understanding of God's Word and end-time prophecy. So this knowledge doubling curve, if we take a look at this graph here, you can see how the doubling of knowledge has increased exponentially throughout the ages. If you look at 1440s to 1900, we see that the knowledge doubled in 400 years' time. That's how long it took. When we got into the 1900s, we could see that knowledge doubled every 50 years. Then in the mid to late 1900s, 1950, 1970, it doubled in 20 years, and then it doubled in 10 years, and then 8 years. And then when we started reaching in the information age, the computerization of digital data, that really made things double very quickly. And so then we see back in 2019, we had what was called the Internet of Things tipping point, where it accelerated the amount of information, doubling not years but in months. And I believe I put this chart in here. This chart came out in 2018, I think. But look at how 2020 IBM predicts the build out of the Internet of Things will lead to the doubling of knowledge every 12 hours. And isn't it interesting, because the knowledge is advancing so quickly that it's outpacing current curriculums and study material within schools and in college, and professors are barely able to keep up with new information systems and technologies, especially in the science and medicine fields. Curriculum becomes outdated, textbooks are gradually being replaced by online information and studies. I know some of the people in the Philippines that I was going to give this teaching to. Many of them are teachers, some of them are professors, and maybe you are a teacher or a professor in a college or a school system. And you may have already heard about a STEM education. And STEM education is basically the accelerated education in the field of science, technology, engineering, and math. And due to the increase of technologies in several fields and future employment demands for these areas of expertise, scientific administrators at the U.S. National Science Foundation, this is back in 2001, they developed what's called the STEM education, which focuses on these fields of study to help students gain a proper education in these fields. And you can see that the projected job growth for those who study in these fields are going to have a better chance and higher paying jobs, a better chance of finding a job and a higher paying job in the near future. You can take a look here, the STEM occupations with the highest and lowest annual mean wages, and this was back 5 years ago. But take a look at the difference in those who have a STEM education, if you will, and the difference in pay between those particular fields and those who do not have that kind of background. So petroleum engineers, look at how much they make per year compared to someone who is in the as a forest ranger or in the forest and conservation technicians or agriculture and food science. So you can see that having a STEM education is going to get you a little bit farther in life, if you will. But this data here was compiled by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics back in 2015, and I would imagine this is very similar around the world. Whether you're in Europe or in Southeast Asia, I'm sure it's pretty much the same there. And again, the reason why I want to bring this up is because if you are homeschooling your child, I believe it's very much very important that you get a hold of the STEM curriculum for your child, so that your child can get a good quality education, not be left behind in this tech age and the coming advanced technological age. Also, the same goes for those of you who are in public schools. Consider talking to your school about incorporating this type of curriculum for your child's education. Again, this is just in the United States. This chart here was compiled by the Pew Research Center back in August of 2017, and you can see the percentage of adults who say children who are in the public schools, kindergarten through 12th grade, should emphasize more in these STEM subjects than even the basic, the math and statistics and other things. That the STEM subjects are super, super important. So just something to chew on there. So these are some of the top tech buzzwords in 2020, and I have to admit to you, I had to look every one of these up to get a very good understanding of them, because the technology is really, I feel it's leaving people my age and maybe even older behind. If you don't stay on top of this, you will be left behind. And so I'm going to give you an idea of what these are to help you understand. If someone's talking about it, you'll understand the lingo. So the Voices UI, or a VUI, a perfect example of this would be Alexa. Like Amazon uses Alexa, or Alexa, Alexa, please turn on the TV, or Alexa, give me information on this. That's basically what the voice, or the VUI, Voices UI, is. If we talk about multi-experience, multi-experience is basically the conglomeration of several technologies that you use at the same time, such as playing a game on the internet, but using a virtual reality headset along with maybe your smartphone. That would be a multi-experience. Hyperautomation, if you look at the manufacturing field, this would be the best way of talking about hyperautomation, is where you're using AI, robotics, and machine learning to improve automation. Maybe you're using that to reduce or to actually increase your throughput. Maybe using this in an application of theory of constraint, where you're using AI to identify where is your low point or your slow productivity within your chain of manufacturing, and how to implement hyperautomation to increase that. So that is something that a lot of companies, especially automobile companies, are using hyper automation to increase throughput, reduce costs, and increase efficiencies. Connected retail is another word you're going to start seeing, and this is using the Internet of Things to speed up self-checkout. I don't believe I put this in the teaching, but if you go online and take a look, you'll see that there are some convenience stores around the world who have set up a kiosk within the grocery store or within the convenience store where you go in, you don't see anybody in there. If there is someone in there, they're usually in the back room and they're getting things ready to stock shelves. But this basically eliminates the use of a cashier. And you would go in and buy what you would like, pick up what you like in the store. And you come to this kiosk and you put everything in a bag and you set the bag on a scale. And what that scale does is the computer will read whatever you bought, whatever you have in the bag, which will have an RFID chip on it. So like if you had a Snickers candy bar and maybe a pack of batteries and some other items, each one of those items will have an RFID chip in it. And by putting everything in a bag on the scale, the Internet of Things, the scanners and everything that's there will automatically be able to determine exactly what you have in that bag. It will show a price on the screen, and then you'll use your smartphone and put your smartphone up to where to pay at, and it'll automatically deduct the money from your account that you have that's through your smartphone. So these things are being used not only in some grocery stores, but some of the big box chains are starting to use this type of technology. Computer vision. The best thing I can tell you for computer vision would be in airports, especially international airports. Like I remember several years ago when Marilyn and I were flying back from Tel Aviv, we went into, I think we flew into O'Hare Airport, and at O'Hare Airport, it might have been JFK, but one of those airports, when you came in, you had to walk up to what was called a computer vision, put your face up to the screen. They would immediately take a picture or use the computer vision software to facially recognize who you were and compare it with your passport to agree or disagree that you are that said person. So you'll see that. And then we have what's called mobile first. And websites such as YouTube are developed for mobile gadgets first and then modified to adapt to computers. Just something very interesting. They're really starting to push putting your videos and everything and making it more available and easily accessible on your smartphone rather than on your computer, because we're starting to get smaller and smaller and more efficient. So we're starting to use the smartphones for more things and trying to replace, your desktop computer, trying to get to laptops and trying to get to mobile phones, getting to smartphones. Then we see over on the right, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and blockchain. We're going to be speaking extensively on the IoT, the Internet of Things. We're going to be talking about AI, artificial intelligence. And then in the next teaching, we'll be getting more into the blockchain. I found this very interesting. You can find this on Gartner.com, GARTNER.com. And they have included here, these are emerging technology trends back in 2019. These are still emerging technologies for the year 2020, but take a look at what we see here in the emerging technology trends. These are areas that they are focusing on. You're going to see on the next slide digital ecosystems and advanced AI and analytics. But on this page, we see the sensing and mobility. So 3D sensing cameras, flying autonomous vehicles. The areas where I put arrows are, to me, the red flags of things that are coming. Also, what's kind of scary is the augmented human technology that is being developed right now, such as biochips to augment the human condition, augmented intelligence, biotech, which is the cultured or artificial tissue, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that. We also see about the rollout of the 5G, and hopefully you remember last year when I was in the Philippines talking about the next generation and talking about some of the technologies that were being rolled out and the dangers of 4G, how 4G is ran on a 2.4 gigahertz frequency, and that is the same kind of frequency that disrupts water molecules. So not only water molecules of the water that you're drinking, but also the water molecules that are within your body. And what is going on now with the rollout of 5G? 5G runs on what's called the 60 megahertz frequency. And the 60 megahertz is what controls the air we breathe. It disrupts the molecules for the air that we breathe. And I believe these are some things that are going to ruin our immune system. It's going to drag us down and would be more prone to viruses, aka the flu, the cold, and some of the other things that are going around right now. And then we also see the nanoscale 3D printing. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Here are the other two areas of emerging tech within the world right now, and this one here is digital ecosystems and also advanced AI and analytics. And we're going to talk a little bit about not only artificial intelligence, but the machine learning aspect of it. And one thing I didn't talk about on that last slide was the generative adversarial network, or GAN. And what's interesting about this is the generative modeling that we see here. What we see here is that it involves using a model to generate new examples that plausibly come from an existing distribution of samples, such as generating new photographs that are similar but specifically different from a data set of existing photographs. And through machine learning, the generative model can then be used to create new plausible samples. So what you see here is there are pictures that are taken through facial recognition, okay? And what the computer will do is, if you want to generate, say you want to generate in the computer, I want a woman with glasses, and you take the data that is already put in there, which in this case, there's 3 photos that have been taken with a man that has glasses, 3 that have a man without glasses, and here a woman with glasses or without glasses. And now you want to say, I want a woman with glasses, and it'll take all those photos, and you can see how the computer has generated new photographs based on those 9 photos on there. And it's very, very interesting, and they're very, very realistic. So this is an example of vector arithmetic for GAN, generated faces, taken from unsupervised representation learning with deep convolutional generative adversarial networks, 2015. Now, I realize what I'm sharing is, first of all, I am not an expert in this field. I am still learning this stuff, but I find it very, very fascinating. And I do not expect anyone who is listening to this teaching for the first time to get all of this. I still do not understand all of this. But what's scary is this technology is out there, and it is advancing at a rate that most human beings can't even comprehend. So let's get into the technologies in detail. From the first page, we talked about, IoT and VR immersion, artificial intelligence, those type of things. So, IoT, in simplistic terms, the IoT stands for Internet of Things. So, smart watches, smart door locks, smart refrigerators, smart security systems, that type of thing. Even self-driving tractors and self-driving cars. In IoT, the Internet of Things does not require any human-to-computer or computer-to-human interaction. And I would be willing to bet that some of you may have smart watches or smart TVs, maybe even smart alarm systems. The IoT is growing so much that it's going to encompass every aspect of our daily lives, from healthcare to travel to security to everyday things. And my question is, will IoT dumb us down so much by doing tasks that we do on a normal basis? And what happens when the internet goes down and the IoT is not able to work anymore? Are we going to remember to be able to do the tasks that IoT is doing for us now? For instance, let's say you're a farmer and you're driving your tractor, you know how to, plant crops and how to spray crops with herbicides and insecticides, et cetera, et cetera. And then say you pass away, your son, your daughter takes the family business, and at that point in time, the tractors are already, you just program them, the tractors do what they need to do. Are you going to be able to understand how to do that when the Internet of Things breaks down? That's the thing that I wonder about. So taking a look at the pros and cons of the Internet of Things, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through the positives here. I'm going to go through the cons. And we see that there is a huge risk of leakage of confidential data when sent over a network. And you're going to see the reason why. Actually, I'll just share it right now. One of the reasons why there's a huge risk of leakage of confidential data when sent over the network is that in the quick rollout to try and get these products out, businesses are not spending, or shall I say, the manufacturers are not spending enough time putting in security systems on these Internet of Things, and so they're easily hackable, and that is a problem. Due to its complex network, a single loophole can put the entire system down, affecting everyone. So again, a hacker could get in there and disrupt the Internet of Things, maybe a smartwatch, something like that, and that could just shut everything down. With automation, the need of human labor reduces drastically, and not only that, as I said before, you may lose that kind of technical skill. When the Internet of Things goes down, you may not be able to know how to do the job that you did, say, 10 years ago when you were let go because some Internet of Things is now doing your job. And now they call you back to come back to work, and you may not be able to may not know how to do the tasks that you did, say, 5-10 years ago. And obviously today's lifestyle is technological driven, and we depend on technology for the tiniest of tasks, and that worries me. That worries me because in the very beginning, God gave us simple tasks to do, agricultural tasks, guarding the garden, learning things like growing our own crops, animal husbandry, just simple things like that. And we are so dumbed down today. If we would talk to our grandparents back in the early 1900s, 90% of the people who lived out in the country were self-sufficient. Today, it's more like 10% of people that live out there, because most people now live in cities. And I'm here to tell you, when we have things like what's going on right now around the world, who's going to be affected more? The people living in the cities or the people living out in the country? The people living in the cities. So we see the interaction of people through the Internet of Things is becoming more and more minimized. Now I'm going to play a video here for you. This is one of the concerns I have, and you're going to see a demonstration of that. As I said before, in an effort to get the IoT devices released out quickly to the public and make these larger profits for these companies, many of these companies put very little research and development into the safety protocols, making many of these devices hackable. And you'll see what I mean here in just a minute. I'm going to play this video. It's about 3.5 minutes long.
My name is Atul Prakash. I'm a professor in electrical engineering and computer science at the University of Michigan. We're going to be showing you how a hacker can open your front door. The idea is to improve the safety of your home and to allow you to monitor what's going on inside your house and to remotely potentially control it. Unfortunately, this also opens the door to potential vulnerabilities, and we're going to be showing you some attacks that are possible, which should give homeowners some pause when considering deploying these kind of technologies.
Okay, this attack involves a homeowner who has installed a smart lock on their front door and is using a battery monitor app to monitor battery levels. However, I have written this app and I've encoded malicious instructions in it to send me an SMS message whenever the user programs a PIN code. This will let me enter the home whenever I want. So I've received a SMS telling me the code the user has just programmed, and I'm just going to walk over to the home and unlock the door. So as you can see, the bolt turns and I can unlock the door. The second attack exploits an app that the user has downloaded from the SmartThings App Store that allows homeowners to remotely lock and unlock door locks. I'll send a message to that app using my browser, and it will let me program my own PIN code, even multiple PIN codes if I want to, and it will allow me sustained access to the home. As you can see, the bolt turns and I can open the door.
We have reached out to Samsung and SmartThings team on the vulnerabilities that we found in their platform. So if you're considering using these technologies, you should analyze from the perspective of what's the worst case scenario, which in this case often would be that a hacker has at least as equal access to your smart devices inside your house remotely as you do.
In the past 2 years alone, hundreds of millions of consumers have been affected by breaches in high-profile companies' cybersecurity. Information like your credit card number can be accessed by...
So that gives you an idea of what's going on. As I said before, companies are rolling out products so fast that they're not putting in fire-safe walls, anything to prevent biohackers from going in and messing with your devices. So for those of you, I know there are some of you that are in the medical field, and I'll just share this. There are technologies now for pacemakers and insulin pumps that are also what's considered Internet of Things. And just as you have ransomware for computers, there's hackers out there right now who will basically get into your computer and cause you to pay them for them to send a code to release the computer back to you. It's like a ransomware. Well, how would you feel about if a hacker sent you a phone call to say, look, I can stop your pacemaker. I've already hacked into your pacemaker, and I can cause your pacemaker to shut down or speed up your heart and basically kill you. Or your insulin pump. People who have type 1 diabetes who need the insulin. If they don't get the insulin, they're going to die from it. And there could be a biohacker, a hacker who will come in and basically reprogram your pump and put you as a hostage, And so these are just things to consider when getting these IoT devices. Understand that these things are being rolled out so quickly that the companies are not putting much money at all into building safety features to prevent the devices from being hacked. So now let's get into virtual reality, VR. Virtual reality is the use of computer technology to create a simulated environment. Unlike traditional user interfaces, VR places the user inside of an experience. Instead of viewing a screen in front of them, users are immersed and able to interact with 3D worlds. So you're going to get an idea. This is basically a VR headset. This is something you'd put on over your head and you would look through it. This is still probably a good 4 to 5 years out as far as the technology goes. This gives you an idea of you are basically in a completely digital environment when you put these on, put on the headset. You're fully enclosed. You have this synthetic experience with no sense of the real world. And what's going to happen is when the 5G rolls out and more software improvements upon this type of virtual reality, this will improve this type of product. This gives you an idea. This gives you an idea right here what VR immersion is. You can see the man up on the top. He's probably just standing in a regular room, walking on the floor, but this is what he sees by putting on the VR immersion. He sees there's a plank that he has to walk across. Or down on the bottom, here's another one where someone is playing a game, using a fake gun, but his virtual reality is he's out on this road. Looks like an apocalyptic game where he's shooting bugs or aliens or something like that. But one of the dangers of VR is that the virtual reality experience anyway, can trick your mind into believing things that you see in the virtual reality world to be real. And this has been reported to cause several psychological effects in users, depending on the type of VR you're seeing. And so the neurons responsible for memory creation are being tricked into thinking that this is real when it's not. So, something to look at there. The next type of thing we have is what's called augmented reality or AR, and it's the technology of combining real-world images, video, other things like that with computer-generated information and or imagery. And some of the common applications we see, it's basically very common in the business world, especially in supply chain. Like you see here, a big box store where this helps with tracking inventory. And we see it again in the business sector, in the gaming sector, and also in the military sector. Some of the cons for this is privacy and security concerns, issues about intrusiveness. It can promote risky behavior. So, for instance, how many times you see people walking on the streets with their head down, using their smartphone and texting someone, and next thing you know, they're out in the middle of the street ready to get run over. Well, that's the same thing here with augmented reality. You're looking at this and you're engrossed in it, and it could cause problems. And really, it's right now it's in the primitive phase, and it can be very costly. Basically, people, or should I say, businesses that have a lot of capital are able to use this type of technology. But again, it's very much in the primitive phase, but it is coming. These are some of the realities that are developed. We just talked a little bit about virtual reality. We also talked about augmented reality, and the other one that has come out and is gaining ground quite rapidly is what's called mixed reality. And it's basically of the virtual environment combined with the real world. And so not only are you in a virtual world or an augmented world, you also are in the real world. So you're interacting with both the real world and the virtual environment. And this mixed reality is also known as what's called the hybrid reality. And it's a combination, again, of both the physical and virtual worlds. And one thing we could talk about just briefly is that in the auto industry, this mixed reality could eliminate the need to create a new clay prototype each time designers want to explore a change or adjust a design feature. So, at Ford or Volvo or Audi, when they want to make a new car, they usually take a huge amount of clay and shape a new vehicle. Well, by using this mixed reality, when they wanted to make a change to, say, the front design of a vehicle or to streamline the car, instead of changing that block of clay, they can just get into this, what's called this mixed reality, and make very simple, quick adjustments, which would definitely save time and money. So another area that we need to discuss is UAVs. UAVs are unmanned aerial vehicles, and they're basically one component of an unmanned aircraft system, which includes a UAV, a ground-based controller, and a system of communication between the two. And in my day, this was and still is a UAV. This is a remote-controlled airplane using some type of fuel source and a simple radio frequency. But today, we have a more sophisticated type of UAV. We see here a drone, for instance, which has many of them out there today you can buy with a camera and video recording and greater control distances and battery power. And you can see on this, a person here is using a smartphone hooked up to the controller for video and recording. And today, you can buy a decent drone for about $150. Now, for about $1,300, you can buy the DJI Phantom 4, which can fly about 1,600 feet in the air at speeds of about 45 miles an hour with a maximum range of 3.1 miles. So this is the civilian UAVs. What about the military UAVs? If we take a look at the UAV military, most of these drones that you see here are used for anytime surveillance, and most of them are equipped with infrared and night optics. They are very hard to detect by radar due to a very low heat signature because most of them run on batteries. Now, if we take a look, the two items that I've circled here, the RQ-4, the Global Hawk up there, can fly in the air for 32 hours non-stop at a range of almost 23,000 kilometers and at an altitude of 60,000 feet. And the MQ Predator that you see, the other one there, is equipped with Hellfire missiles, and it was first used in Afghanistan for high-profile targets. So you can see that these things are starting to be more and more incorporated in the air forces around the world, unmanned. So how does it work? Again, this is a typical setup for any unmanned vehicle. It has to consist of an unmanned aircraft system, a person controlling the flight, and that system that connects the person to the UAV. And you can see here there's two ways of communication that the person has in controlling that UAV. One is line of sight data link, but let's say that plane is, or that UAV is several miles out and now it's on the other side of a mountain. Well, now you have to rely on a satellite relay, so having a satellite data link. So this gives you an idea of how this is controlled. And it's interesting that UAVs are not just singled out as far as only aircraft. Russia announced in March of 2019 that they are going to roll out an underwater drone which can be armed with a nuclear weapon, which also can be launched from a submarine. And just the other day, March 11th of 2020, Boeing's autonomous sub is going to be fitted with weaponized AI. And the U.S. Navy is developing AI that will attack targets without human input. The AI system is called CLAWS, C-L-A-W-S. And CLAWS will likely be installed on the submarines. So something to think about. So not just drones in the air, but drones in the water. This gives you an idea. This comes out of Turkey. So Turkey has this type of drone, this military drone, and the name of this drone is called Songar, and it has night sensors for operating in darkness and has a range of 10 kilometers, and it can also operate into, I think, up to 3 drones. Based on one operator can control 3 drones, and the creator of this drone, Asagard, it claims that this drone has an accuracy of hitting with its machine gun. It fires 5.56 NATO rounds. It has 200 rounds of ammunition plus a grenade launcher on it, and it has the ability at 200 meters of an accuracy of hitting an area the size of 15 centimeters while it's in flight. That is amazing. That is amazing. And this comes out of Turkey. What I'm going to show you here is another video. This is what's also made in Turkey, called the Kargu attack drone. And if any of you remember the video I shared with you last year on slaughter bots, this is something very similar to it. You're going to see that on this drone there is a type of weapon on the front of it that can be deployed when it reaches a target. It'll either explode or detonate. It's something where it'll be anti-personnel, or it could actually, maybe even take out a tank. So you're going to see just how this thing works. So again, a drone can mean a dynamic, remotely operated navigation equipment. And let's just go ahead and play it, and you'll get an idea what this thing does. So that just gave you an ability, or that just gave you an understanding anyway of what that type of equipment can do. It's self-autonomous. You can put different kinds of warheads on the front of it, and it's basically, once you lock it in on something, you can fire and forget it. And again, these are technologies that are being built all around the world. I mean, if Turkey is building these, then obviously European Union, United States, and others are working on things like that. The battlefield is people are starting to be removed from the battlefield, and machines will be taking place of the human condition on the battlefront. This is another one I wanted to share. This is another short video. This is microtechnology military. These are what's called MAVs, not UAVs. They're micro air vehicles. And they are developed for military applications such as intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. And as we get more and more into nanotechnology, you're going to see smaller and smaller vehicles. And they're mainly be used for reconnaissance and intelligence gathering. So let's take a look at that.
Imagine an airplane shrunk to the size of your thumbnail. Is that even possible? It is at the Air Force Research Lab.
We are in a program called Micro Air Vehicles. Traditionally, the role of the Air Force has been very large aircraft. So you can imagine an F-16 or an F-22. It's very large. Lately, things have been getting a lot smaller because you want to go sometimes to places that you can't get in with an F-16.
Micro air vehicles, also called MAVs, are the future of collecting intelligence.
A micro air vehicle might sit inside a building. It might sit outside of a building and sit and watch a doorway. And the nice thing about it, because it's so small, it's going to be harder to see the micro air vehicle. The idea is that it can sit there and nobody will notice it, and we can just gather intelligence.
These MAVs will look and fly like small birds, or maybe insects. The engineers actually study real-life birds and bugs to help them in the building process. An MAV has to carry sensors, receivers, and a power supply, and still be light enough for controlled flight. It's a big challenge, but the Air Force has the people and the resources to crack it.
So just to share about that, the benefits of these micro air vehicles is that they're going to be small and practically undetectable, low cost, minimal training, minimal manpower required, and military effectiveness. And these MAVs will allow remote observation of hazardous environments, also remote intelligence gathering. There are already some MAVs already being used by the Air Force that have a range up to 10 kilometers, speeds up to 30 miles an hour, and a 20-minute flight time. So they are still improving on these things. But, the thing that I worry about is being surveillant, having some type of micro machine that you don't even see that's surveying the public. And again, that I feel that's infringing upon our rights, especially here in America with the rights that we have as citizens. So these are just a couple things I thought I would share with you. This is on the military side. Now we're going to talk also about another type of UAV, but it's called a UGV. Okay, this UGV is an unmanned ground vehicle. It's based on the same thing as a UAV. You still have to have someone controlling it. And this is called the Themis. It is a tracked hybrid information system, and it can be equipped for civilian use, for firefighters and things like that. But I wanted to share with you the military side of things. This thing that you see here was developed in Estonia and also in Sweden. It was used. The main reason why it was developed was as a tank destroyer in case Russia ever decided to sweep in to the west and start, attacking countries. This would be a way that the Estonia and Sweden could defend themselves. These are very easily to be manufactured. They don't cost as much as a tank. And you're going to see one of these in action here in just a minute. But it's armed with a 50 caliber machine gun. It's also equipped with a Javelin missile. It has a diesel engine in it, but also has batteries in it that it can run on battery. So it has a 12-hour run time with the diesel fuel, but it also has 1/2 hour stealth time just to run on batteries in a stealth mode. And again, as I said before, with the UAVs, it's controlled remotely and wirelessly from a weapon station. And The primary uses from the military side is a troop support vehicle. You can go online and you can see how they use it as a troop support vehicle. Several videos that are on YouTube on this particular type of machinery. It's also used as a tank destroyer, troop transport, and it can also be used to identify IEDs. It's a very, very versatile type of weapon system. And let me tell you that many countries are looking at purchasing this type of equipment. So you're going to see a short video, and what is very intriguing about it is how two people control this vehicle. One controls the UAVs that this UGV has to help track a target, and then you're going to see just just how stealthy and how devastating this type of military hardware can be. If you've ever watched the Terminator movies, that vehicle looks very similar to the third Terminator movie. It's amazing. So a very effective piece of hardware. Notice how there was two operators there, one who controlled the UAVs in seeking out a target, and the other person was manning the UGV to attack the target. So again, we're getting more and more away from the battlefield of human to human fighting and more with machinery. So let's get into AI just for a minute. So AI, or artificial intelligence, is the term used to describe a machine's ability to simulate human intelligence. That's the key. If you get anything from AI, that's the key. It's the term used to describe a machine's ability to simulate human intelligence. So actions like learning, logic, reasoning, perception, creativity that were once considered unique to humans is now being replicated by technology and used in every industry. How many times you've been on the internet and you want to talk to someone online, maybe you ordered an item and you're trying to get in touch with a company and you're trying to chat with someone. Well, chances are a lot of times you're probably talking with what's called a chat bot. A chat bot, specifically the live chat versions that handle basic customer service requests on company websites. And they use algorithms to help determine when you're typing in a question, the chat bot will try to understand what the question is and give the best answer to try and answer your question. Where is the AI being implemented? Well, just like the Internet of Things, they are being used in about every aspect of our lives, whether it's customer experience, HR, in the medical field, research and development, customer service. We see it. So the medical field would be precision medicine, drug discovery. In the financial services, AI is used to help detect fraud and enhance customer service. In the manufacturing, And we talked before the hyperautomation to help streamline supply chain and predictive maintenance, and even in the retail sector to provide a personalized shopping experience. Very interesting how AI is being used with social media. I don't know about you, but I try and use DuckDuckGo as my search engine, and I also try and use the Badger app to try and prevent all the tracking that goes on when you go to certain websites. I don't like my data being used and tracked and sold by Google or Facebook or Instagram. And here we see Google uses AI and machine learning. And many people don't know that Google Ads has already implemented AI in its advertisement model. How many times have you been on a search engine and maybe for instance, for us, we were getting our trip scheduled to the Philippines and went ahead and got that taken care of. And then next thing we know, for the next 5 to 7 days, every time we're on a web page, we see on the side an advertisement for booking flights or advertisements for the Philippines. And I'm sure you see the same thing, when you're online and you're looking at something specifically that maybe you're wanting to buy a car, and then next thing you know, you have ads all over the place on the internet while you're searching for something else that are advertisements for automobiles. So anyway, this AI helps to identify the user's taste, and as per that, it shows ads. That's what happens. This approach gives a high return on investment to the Google organization. Facebook, same way. But what it does is it targets data in a different approach, as Facebook itself is a market leader. It uses AI for research and development purposes. AI in advertising is becoming a pinnacle. That's why Facebook uses it as prior equipment, which they named as FB Learner Flow. FBI? No. FB Learner Flow. This program dedicatedly works on user behavior on Facebook. And we also see it here with Instagram. They also take advantage of AI. Instagram data provides a numerous amount of insight to various businesses which are interested in selling their products and services. Instagram on a daily basis monitors search preferences and user engagement of its users. Instagram also observes our likes, dislikes, whom we follow, whom we block, and many other aspects. So when you get online and you're using any kind of social media, know that your information is being recorded and being sold on the market to other businesses. So let's talk about AI and learning. If we take a look, this graph kind of gives a little bit idea of, we first start off with artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence learns through either two ways, through machine learning or through deep learning. Deep learning and machine learning are two concepts related to AI, and machine learning is a system where a computer learns without being explicitly programmed, but its algorithms almost always require some form of structured data. And in the next slide, you'll get a good idea of what that looks like. Deep learning is a subset of machine learning in AI that has networks capable of learning unsupervised from data that is unstructured or unlabeled. You'll see what this is here in the next slide. So for instance, in machine learning, data is fed and a set of rules are executed by the algorithm. Someone has to put that in. Therefore, techniques of machine learning can be categorized as instructions that are executed and learned automatically to produce the result. Deep learning allows machines to solve complex problems even when using a data set that is very diverse, unstructured, and interconnected. It's like when you're in a network, it uses that information to come up with its answer. So let's talk about how AI is being incorporated in the business sector. A survey of 3,000 business leaders back in 2019 had some interesting results. MIT gave a survey, and it found that many executives understand AI's potential but have yet to put a strategy that leverages it into action. And this is coming. This is coming. Right now, we don't see it, but we will see it in the next 5 to 10 years for sure. So here are some of the most interesting findings from this survey of 3,000 business leaders. 75% of executives believe AI will enable their companies to move into new businesses. Almost 85% believe that AI will allow their companies to obtain or sustain a competitive advantage. And over 60% of all companies don't have an AI strategy in place. And so the AI implementation in the workforce is inevitable. It is inevitable. The overall benefits to companies using AI are huge. Artificial intelligence would have a low error rate compared to humans if coded properly. They would have incredible precision, accuracy, and speed. They won't be affected by hostile environments, thus able to complete dangerous tasks and endure problems that would injure or potentially kill us. So think of the benefits to manufacturing companies when AI is combined with robotics. AI will eventually replace humans in the workforce. And again, I ask, where is that going to leave human beings? Robots don't have to sleep. They don't have to eat. They don't have to take sick time. They don't have to take maternity leave. They can work 24/7. They won't get tired. They just need predictive technologies and preventative maintenance. That's it. They don't get a pension. None of that. Those are the benefits that the business leaders are looking at. Let's get into robotics for just a minute. The robotics on the civilian side, I found it kind of interesting doing my research on this. In the top left, you see a picture of the Works Landroid. And what that is it's a lawnmower. And it will mow your grass on a daily basis and return to the charging station when it's done, or when its batteries are low, or when it's raining. The upper right, we see the UBTech Lynx. This UBTech Lynx is a humanoid robot that can work with Amazon's Alexa. And it provides weather reports, it'll play your favorite music, and it'll make to-do lists for you, as well as remind you of what you need to take care of on that to-do list. And then the one on the bottom is the Asus Zenbo, and it is a smart mobile companion robot that can control some household devices. It can also act as a security system, and it can even read to your children to keep them entertained. So again, I ask you, these things are taking, for the sake of time, the basic thing here is we're removing the human condition and putting in computerized systems to do menial tasks that we used to do, such as mowing the yard, writing down to-do lists, entertaining our children, reading to them, things like that. And so again, I ask, are we going to be able to do these things on our own after a number of years when these things go down? So anyway, I find it very interesting that same Works Landroid, all these things you can buy right now. I don't know how much they cost offhand, but I know the Works Landroid is based off of the vacuum cleaner that would go around and vacuum your floor and return to the charging station. So these things right now, you can already go out and buy these in the retail market. What about on the military side of things? We have a bunch of military robots which are teleoperated and not equipped with weapons, although I'm sure they could be, just like the UGV we saw that was made in Estonia. These robots we see here are used for reconnaissance, surveillance, sniper detection, neutralizing explosive devices like IEDs. And you can see here the Dakash and the PackBot. The Dakash can locate and handle and destroy bombs. It has X-ray machinery on it to locate and identify bombs that may be behind walls or underground. And the PackBot includes a camera to aid in detection of enemy troops. So, it can go up maybe above a wall and use its camera system to track enemy movement. And it can also analyze the air to detect hazardous materials to human beings. Also, we have here the Navy, and we talked about this before, about the claws system for the submarine. And more than likely, they'll probably use the claws AI on this robotic military ship here, but the Navy is experimenting with a 135-ton ship named the Sea Hunter. I believe that's an Orca-class sub, which can patrol the oceans without a crew, looking for submarines it could one day attack directly. And in a test, the ship has already sailed 2,500 miles from Hawaii to California on its own. And in my opinion, the problem is going to be when we fully combine machine intelligence with robotics, giving them the AI and deep learning. I believe that's going to be a problem one day. And if Boeing then incorporates the AI system, the Claws AI system on these military ships, how are we going to control it? How are we going to control it if it's underwater on its own and it accidentally identifies a cruise ship, like say the cruise Princess ship, with that of a destroyer, and it fires a torpedo at it and sinks it. I mean, we're rolling these things out so quick, and we're not putting in safeguards, just like in the IoT civilian sector. What's to say that one of these things doesn't go rogue? These are the things that worry me. So let's get into the nanotechnology side of things. In the nanotechnology, it involves the manufacture and manipulation of materials at the atomic or molecular level. Materials are measured in billionths of a meter. That's where we get nanometers. And I found this chart, and I thought it was really interesting to see how small nano devices are. And these nano devices are so small that they are something that the medical field is using and looking into quite extensively, based on how it could be used as a delivery system to destroy viruses or bacteria. And so we see three things down here on the bottom. And the nano devices, we have nanopores, dendrimers, nanotubes, quantum dots, and nanoshells. And they can be used anywhere as solar cells or medical imaging. They can be used in biomed imaging and cancer treatment. They can also be used in the construction engineering field to help reinforce rebar and concrete. And then one thing that I didn't talk about is these dendrimers. And these dendrimers are tiny spheres that have been carefully engineered to have several loose ends to which other molecules can be attached, such as a targeting agent that can recognize a cancer cell and distinguish it from a healthy cell, or even be used as a drug that kills cancer cells. So some interesting technology, but again, if used in the wrong hands, such as a bioweapon, could be a very deadly thing. So some nanotechnology applications, definitely we see it in the medicine field, the energy sector, consumer goods, advanced packing materials, sensors, information technology. So these are just a few of the applications being used with nanotechnology. How is it being implemented in these fields? Here's something I found interesting. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration back in 2017 approved the first drug in the United States with a digital intestinal tracking system. What you do is you take this pill, and this pill, it's called Abilify, and it was approved for the treatment of schizophrenia or acute treatment of manic and mixed episodes associated with bipolar type 1 disorder. And it's also used as an add-on treatment for depression in adults. What you do is you swallow the pill dissolves. That pill dissolves and gives you what your body needs to take care of the schizophrenia, to control it, or to control a certain disorder. And after it's dissolved, there's a pill, or after it's dissolved, with what's inside the pill is a small bimetal sensor. And that bimetal sensor will send a signal to a patch on your arm, and that signal from your arm patch will then send a message by your Bluetooth phone to the patient's phone, and that phone signal will then be able to be sent to your doctor or family member. And I added on here, or to a government agency. I believe that this technology could one day be used to track us. Maybe in the event there's a vaccine for some type of there's a vaccine that's a cure for some type of disorder or some type of virus, who knows what. But you take this pill, and maybe you don't even realize within this pill there is a sensor that actually will now enable someone to track you wherever you go. I'm just throwing that out there. So how's nanotechnology being used in the military? Well, right now it's being used with uniforms, which will help be incorporated with various fibrous materials of your uniform that could impart water or absorbency or repellency, fire and thermal resistance, maybe antimicrobial treatment. Just very, very interesting. This stuff will help make your uniform lighter, maybe in weight, maybe more breathable. It may make it harder for the uniform to tear. There's also thermal barriers that the military is looking at with nanotechnology. And then other areas of propulsion, wound care, sensors, things like that. And I'm sure that the DARPA, the Black Budget Research, is also using nanotechnology as well. And again, will this change modern warfare? I believe it will. And don't be surprised if nanotechnology is introduced into biowarfare one day. Space exploration, for the sake of time, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I'm just going to ask you, how many people here think that the United States went to the moon? If you do, if you believe that we did, I have a homework assignment for you. You need to watch these things on YouTube. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon. Astronauts Gone Wild, full documentary. Please do your homework and research these things first, and then look at both sides of the story and come up with your own reasoning behind whether we went to the moon or not. Interestingly, that scientists of the world, and most of the scientists of the world that have a platform anywhere, are non-Bible believers, and they continue to push the narrative that we are an insignificant planet amongst billions of planets as we hurtle our solar system through space, and it's in direct contradiction to what Elohim's word says. And I'm throwing this question out to you. Do you want to put your hope into what scientists say today, or do you want to put your hope into what Elohim tells us in his word? It's got to be one or the other, folks. So please do your homework assignment on this. Look these things up for yourself. And the same thing you apply to Scripture, apply to the things that we're seeing as far as, did we go to the moon or did we not go to the moon? One thing I want to touch on here, and I'm going to spend some time here in just a minute on more detail on transhumanism, but it is a movement that advocates for the transformation of the human condition by developing and incorporating the following technologies to greatly enhance human intellect and physiology. These are the four fields: genetics and microbiology, robotics, nanotechnology, and artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about those just in a couple minutes. But first, where are some of the latest tech ideas coming from? They're coming from what's called the Burning Man Festival. I don't know if you know much about it, but this is something that began back in 1986 in California. It continues today. It draws huge crowds. And it's in an area out in the desert, completely nowhere. And amongst the noted burners are Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, Google co-founders Sergey Brin and Larry Page, even Tesla CEO Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon. And it's I'm going to just share a little bit about it. It's promoted, the Burning Man Festival is promoted as an annual experiment in temporary community dedicated to radical self-expression and radical self-reliance. And you can see the pictures down there. That Burning Man back in 2013, there was about 50,000 people that went out there in the middle of nowhere. And in reality, what's going on out there is more like the satanic worship of Baal and the gods of the underworld. Everything that the Bible says that God hates, like idol worship, immorality, and witchcraft, sorcery, it is on full display all week long. There are certain things that I can't even share with you on this teaching. If I did, I'd probably get banned on it. But if you do enough research yourself, you will see what this is all about. And this is where the Amazon and YouTube and Google and Facebook are all getting their ideas of more technology. To me, it's demonic worship. It's getting demonic. It's conjuring up the demons, if you will, to get more information and more advancements in technology. And if you can look here, you can see on the bottom right, this is a worshiper praying to her pagan god Osiris at the Burning Man Festival in 2013. The leaders of this massive gathering have stated, they actually have a stated open and obvious aim, and the Burning Man Festival is to prepare their followers for the appearance of a mystical man from outer space to lead them. That's what this Burning Man Festival is all about. It started off, you're not going to find it anywhere, but it started off as a satanic ritual, and now it has turned into something even more than that. And so these are the people of Silicon Valley that come out with these new ideas and new technologies. They go to the Burning Man Festival, they go there for some of the satanic and demonic worship, and they hear things, hear signs, whatever, summoning of demonic entities to get the latest type of technology. And if you think I'm crazy, I understand that. That's fine. But study this out for yourself and look at it. Just take a look at it. That's all I ask. So some of these advancements in technology concerns. These are some concerns that I have. What can be done to maximize the chances that humans will benefit from rather than be harmed by these new developments? These are the questions to ask yourself. Might these technological developments infringe on human rights? Could any of them decrease privacy of individuals? Are these developments more important than your privacy? Are these developments more important than your rights as a citizen or your rights as a human being? Could these developments be one day used against your religious liberties? And again, all these things are very similar to what the serpent said to Adam and Eve in the garden when he said, "You will surely not die, for God knows, Elohim knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like Elohim." Let's advance all these technologies. Let's build a tower for ourselves rather than listening to what our Heavenly Father has to say. So what could this all lead to? I'm trying not to say that all of technology is bad. I believe that certain technologies are helpful to mankind, but in the wrong hands or the evil intentions, they could lead to problems on humanity. The internet is a good example. There are a lot of good things that we can find on the internet, but there's also a lot of bad and evil things on the internet as well. So to me, it all boils down to a heart issue. What are the intentions of the heart with these technologies? Yeshua tells us in Matthew 15, "But what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart, and this defiles a person. For out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false witness, slander. These are what defile a person." And again, it goes back to the lie in the garden. When we take a look at the book of Revelation, when it says, "Who can make war with the beast?" in Revelation 13:4, I believe that the Antichrist will have the latest technologies, and with rulership over several world leaders. He is going to use it to police the world. I believe the Antichrist will use much of this technology to help exert his authority and control the populations of the world, and will use this technology to track and to seek out believers, the saints, the remnant. As I said before, these are the four accelerating technologies for transhumanism: genetics and microbiology, robotics, nanotechnologies, and artificial intelligence. So why should we keep an eye on these fields? Because much of this technology is leading to the age of hybrids, the transhumanism, and the other technology is leading us to a police state or a one world order. Now, I'm going to be sharing a few slides here. Some of this stuff is from a teaching that Chuck Missler gave several years back, and I believe he was one of the first early watchmen discussing the dangers of transhumanism. To me, he was a pioneer in this field for us to be looking out for this stuff. He was talking about it 20 years ago, and then 15 years ago, and then about 6 years ago. And you can find part of his teachings at the koinonia.com. So genetics and microbiology. There are some benefits in the genetics and microbiology field, such as curing diseases such as heart disease or Alzheimer's. But here are some of the issues that we're seeing on this side. 15 years ago, human embryonic stem cells were successfully integrated into a mouse's brain. Scientists at Salk Institute injected human stem cells into the brains of rodent fetuses, resulting in the birth of mice with both human and rodent brain cells. Here we see what I would consider a hybrid zoo, introducing pig-human embryos and a rat mouse. Chimeras could pave the way for growing human organs in other animals. We also know that the GMO foods have come up in the last 15, 20 years. And I don't care what anybody tells me, I know that it does cause cancer in humans. If you do enough research online, you will find a link to the GMO foods and the cancer, increasing cancer in human beings. Now, I realize that luckily there are some countries around the world that have banned GMO foods, which I think that's wonderful. Unfortunately, here in the United States, it has already caught a hold of several seed companies and Monsanto and other companies where GMO foods now are prevalent all throughout the United States. And what does the Bible tell us in Leviticus 19? Elohim tells us that you must keep my statutes. You must not allow two different kinds of your animals to breed. You must not sow your field with two different kinds of seed. And we're seeing there's a changing, where there's things that are going on now that go against Yahweh's word. We also see that scientists at Johns Hopkins University have discovered a gene in mice which controls growth. It's called the growth differentiation factor 8, the GDF8, and disrupting the GDF8 field yielded super mice, which were 3 times larger and stronger. We also know about this CRISPR-Cas9 technology. It's a unique technology that enables geneticists and medical researchers to edit parts of the genome by removing, adding, or altering sections of the DNA sequence. And isn't it interesting that just this month, March 5th, 2020, scientists used CRISPR-Cas9 to rewrite DNA inside of a person for the first time. And so I ask, could this lead to genetic athletes or super soldiers? Maybe a new type of hybrid made in a lab? And are they trying to play Elohim or replace him? That GDF8 article, just so you know, came out back in 1997. Let's continue. Other issues with this research. Few safeguards against errors or abuse. We're seeing this cross-species implications. There could be unknown diseases or complications. What if some of these creatures were able to get out, escape from the lab? I'm not going to go there, but we know something that's going on right now. Maybe it escaped from the lab. But maybe these chimeras and crossbreeding animals somehow escape from the lab and breed with other animals. What's going to happen? What are we going to start seeing around here? Few regulations or procedural applications. We know in the CRISPR-Cas9, a lot of things are going on where people are using this technology in the basement or in the garages of their homes. What about using the genetics as genetic weaponry? Terrorists could develop a pathogen that could target a specific ethnic group. We also see what's called biohacking. And again, these are things that I've had to search out. I'm not saying I'm an expert in this in any way. I'm just trying to share and to wet your whistle a bit so you can take a look at these things and search them out for yourself. But several grinders, and I'm like, what the heck is a grinder? A grinder is a person who biohacked their own bodies. And these people are trying to improve their bodies through biochemicals and nanotechnology. And many people that consider themselves to be a grinder identify with the transhumanism movement. And they practice actual implantation of cybernetic devices in their bodies as a method of working towards transhumanism or some form of immortality or life extension. Life extension is another biggie. If we look in the robotics and humanity side, what is it? It's direct human extensions to supplement the human anatomy. All these things happen 6 to 10 years ago. Here we see the telescopic bionic eye implant. This is in the bottom left corner of the screen. It has a vision twice that, 2 times magnification of regular eye. And it can be used, parts of this technology can be used to help enhance the human condition. Here we see bionic muscle, 100 times stronger than human muscle. It's made of elastic metal called shape memory wire. Then we have what's called limb-to-brain communication. You're going to see that a little bit later. They're called BCIs. And they're optical fibers implanted around the nerves, which allow prosthetics to communicate with the brain. And then in the bottom right, we have what's called sensitive synthetic skin. And it can detect small amounts of pressure. Within 100 milliseconds, it can feel pressure from 15 kilopascals to less than 1 kilopascal, and it is so sensitive that it can even feel the footprint of a fly. In the nanotechnology field, scientists have made mice that can see in the dark, and after researchers injected specially designed nanoparticles into the eyes of mice, they were able to see in the near-infrared spectrum the same light that is exploited in night vision goggles. This is just a year ago. Also, biohackers have figured out how to inject human eyes with night vision. A team of biochemical researchers in the United States figured out how to give a human volunteer night vision, allowing him to see across a distance of over 50 meters in total darkness for several hours. And this is one of the people. This is one of the people who did it, and that they're able to see at night. And it's only a matter of time when the biochemical and nanotechnology converge together in the hands of those wanting to change or enhance their human condition. And as I talked just briefly about, DARPA is an agency in the United States Department of Defense responsible for the development of emerging technologies for use by the military. And DARPA is investing heavily in nanotechnology and brain-machine interfaces, BMIs. And one goal is to allow a single soldier to control swarms of AI-enabled drones just with his or her mind. This could lead to some form of transhumanism in the military, or possibly galvanize the transhumanist movement with a powerful tool that fundamentally alters society for better, or should I say, for worse. And then again, hacking the human is the next cyber threat. And we talked about this earlier, how about ransomware, where a hacker will take over a PC. But what if a hacker hacked into the Internet of Things insulin pump or a pacemaker and ransom your life? So the security flaws in the medical nanotechnologies could be very, very deadly. Artificial intelligence. Again, these things that I'm talking about are based on the human condition, enhancing it, or making people, turning them into a cyborg or a hybrid. Artificial intelligence, early stages using brain scans to identify certain thoughts with certain words. This is something that was done in Princeton University about 15 years ago. And something that's come out of this is the BCI, the Brain Computer Interface Technologies. And the U.S. Army is developing what's called thought helmets, using this technology to secure communication among troops. And the goal would be direct mental control of military systems by thought alone. So just with your thought, you would communicate with other troops on where to position them in the form of a battle, in the battlefield. If you needed to send troops somewhere, you could just with the thought tell them where to go. It would be totally secure communication. It could not be hacked, at least at this point in time. But from the robotics side, using the brain-computer interfaces, it could be implanted inside the skull, but on the outer part of the brain. And for the U.S. Army, for a human person, it would be implanted on the outside of the skull, on the outer part of the brain, but on the outside of the skull. The upside, these EEGs, which are non-invasive BCIs, they can control other apparatus through user thoughts that can help paralytics with mobility. And we do see that. That is an upside. But when the military gets a hold of this, they're going to be used for other things. Again, I'm trying not to go too deep into these things. I just want you to see what's being developed on the military side and what's being used to help improve the human condition. This is something I thought was interesting. This is called the Synapse Project. It's IBM's Systems of Neuromorphic Adaptive Plastic Scalable Electronics project. Basically, what I want you to see of this is that they're taking the human brain and trying to replicate it through electronics and artificial intelligence to make what's called an AI-powered brain. So scientists are trying to replicate the human brain with electrical components, artificial intelligence, and nanotechnology. We have on here something which is called the WBE, the whole brain emulation, mind upload or brain upload, sometimes called mind copying or mind transfer. And I'm telling you, I can't help but think of a movie long ago that had humanistic features with its own AI-powered brain. And I believe this is something that could be in our future. I don't know. Sometimes Hollywood tells us things, and they put it in our faces, and it's only later that we realize that they were onto something possibly. I don't know. I'm trying not to be a conspiracy theorist here, but this type of technology is coming. In my opinion, I believe it's coming. So what about artificial intelligence and humans? The power of computers continues to accelerate as their size, energy, and cost continue to diminish. The facility of software continues to accelerate and expand. Some are looking to one day have the ability to exchange consciousness between bodies, which could offer a path towards some form of immortality. Transferring your brain, your mind, your thoughts onto a computer. It's wild, but it's what people are looking at, especially transhumanists. So AI and humans, some possible outcomes. We could see super soldiers armed with smart weapons, networked super leaders with unlimited mind controls, unenforced lawlessness among the privileged few, consciousness exchanges offering a form of immortality. And mankind, my friends, is starting to approach what's called the singularity. The singularity is the moment when machines reach a level of intelligence that exceeds that of human beings. So again, we see all these technologies converging upon one another. Genetics and microbiology. We see self-replication of manipulated entities, directable diseases targeting specific groups of individuals, aka biowarfare, germ warfare, biotechnology, viruses. We see robotics, self-modifying sentient machines. We see molecular-sized machines in the nanotechnology field, and artificial intelligence, the singularity exceeding the human mind. Again, we see in Revelation 13:4, and they worship the beast, saying, "Who is like unto the beast, and who is able to make war with him?" Could the Antichrist use the latest technology of the world to control the nations and subdue them? Could this technology that we're talking about be used against Messiah Yeshua when he returns along with the saints? I think Satan believes that he can somehow stop Yeshua, but we do know how it ends. The Bible tells us, and praise Yahweh, we win in the end. We win in the end. So keep that in mind. No matter how bad things get, our Heavenly Father is still in control. And when Yeshua comes back, he's going to put all this down. So what is the goal? As I said before, to usher in the age of hybrids. How? From the emergence of the four accelerating technologies in genetics, robotics, nanotechnologies, and artificial intelligence. Interestingly, Elon Musk, about 3 years ago, stated at the World Government Summit that to stay relevant, humans will have to merge more with machines, and that comes with societal dangers. 3 years before that, he even stated at a conference at MIT that we should be very careful about artificial intelligence, warning that it may be our biggest existential threat. So he warned about it in 2014, and he saw the inevitable, according to him, and said, look, we're going to have to somehow combine with the machines so that we don't get left in the dust when artificial intelligence gets the upper hand over mankind. Interestingly, just a couple months ago, there was an article in thesun.com stating that Elon Musk wants to connect your brain to a computer this year as awesome Neuralink mind chip prepares to launch. This is something that Elon Musk has developed. So what is Neuralink? Neuralink is a project that aims to embed computer chips in the human brain. Its aim is to increase intelligence and knowledge along with merging the brain to computers and communication devices. And remember, this is something that a transhumanist would love to see. They would love to have this. The idea is to give humans hyperintelligence by merging them with artificial intelligence. And you're going to see, I'm going to show some pictures here, but tiny threads thinner than a human hair would transfer information into your brain. The process would be similar to an internet cable, transmitting data in and out at high speeds. And again, this Neuralink is founded by Elon Musk. And again, he has previously stated that this technology could save us from a machine uprising in the future. This is no joke. This is something that a lot of people are thinking about. This is what it kind of looks like. This is the chip that is talked about. This chip will then be connected to these tiny threads that are pictured here. You can barely see them. They're smaller than a human hair that will be implanted into the brain. It's already been used on rats and on monkeys successfully. We see here how that thing sits on top of the head there. Gives you an idea. This gives you an idea right here how it would be implanted. They plan to hook a human brain up to a computer, pictured as a concept image showing what the implant could look like. In the top right, you can see how there'll be fiber optics that will be implanted, and then it'll be behind your eardrum, behind your ear. And Musk has said Neuralink will focus on medical applications, and that's how it all starts, somewhere in the medical field. And then it gets in a hold of the military, and the next thing you know, it's changing the human condition. Everybody's got to have it. But it'll focus first on medical applications such as tackling the effects of brain diseases like epilepsy. And after this, the brain chips will be updated to develop a symbiotic relationship between AI and humanity. We're playing a dangerous game here, folks. This is not what Elohim created the human being to do. So what are the ramifications? Well, there's a professor by the name of Hugo de Garis. He wrote this book, Ardalic War, And Artilect is a term Degaris uses for artificial intellects, intelligent machines. Now, interestingly, before I get started with this, Hugo Degaris does not believe in Messiah nor in God, but he does see the impending danger of increasingly intelligent machines who could dominate the human species one day. He believes that before the end of the 21st century, we may see a major war between humans and intelligent machines. One day, we may not be at the top of the hierarchy. Humankind may not be at the top. It may be intelligent machines, followed by cyborgs or hybrids, transhumanists, if you will, then human beings. And interesting, when we look at Scripture, Daniel 2:43, and whereas you saw the iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron does not mix with clay. Could it be that those who are fully human will struggle keeping up with those who are hybridized or a cyborg, intellectually and physically, and will have to make a choice whether to upgrade or not? Maybe this is what Daniel saw. Don't know. Just throwing it out there. Could it also be what Revelation 13 says, that it also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name? Again, something to think about. We also read in Revelation 9:6, during those days people will seek death but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will elude them. Could it be that Revelation 9:6 is speaking of people who have been DNA upgraded with a false eternal life? That could be the mark. Who knows? Or are they more of a hybrid or cyborg that can't die because they are not totally human, mostly machine or robotic driven? Could it be people who have transferred their consciousness to an artificial brain that controls the functions of an AI robot? Maybe that would be some false form of immortality. I don't know. I'm only sharing these things to get you to think, to change your paradigm just a bit and look at these things. So with that, I'm just going to close with a few things. The question is, are we inventing these things to do good or to do evil? As I said before, part of this technology can be helpful to mankind, but it can also be exploited for evil. It could also be the downfall of mankind. We are seeing an increase in militaries using machines and desiring to upgrade the human condition to gain an advantage in battle. And I believe that one day the battlefield will consist of super soldiers and non-human combatants or only intelligent machines. We are seeing an increase in the desire to upgrade oneself through biohacking, which leads to transhumanism or a hybrid or cyborg. I believe that technology is at the cusp of ushering in a false immortality to those who do not believe in Elohim but want to play God or be God-like, choosing their own destiny by upgrading themselves. And as I said before, praise Yahweh that He had a plan all along. By trusting in Him through Yeshua, we have true eternal life in the world to come. And sometimes I think about, I've always thought about the sin in the Garden of Eden and the punishment that I always thought, this harsh punishment that was given upon Adam and Eve. And maybe the reason why that punishment for the sin was so great in the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve was that Yahweh knew that eventually mankind would gain the knowledge and technology to destroy the world and mankind, His creation. So with that, I'm going to close. I hope and pray that this was enlightening, that this opened your eyes to some of the things that are going on in the world, the technological advances, and how they could cause serious problems to mankind. I hope and pray that this teaching was a blessing. Please go to our website, returnthememnant.com, if you have questions, concerns, or comments. Again, this teaching, this presentation here is just scratching the surface, getting you to look at these things and understand that these could be potentially coming very, very soon. Until we meet again, shalom to you, and may you continue to look at these things, study them out, show yourself to be approved. In B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach I pray. Blessings and shalom upon you. Take care. Bye-bye.